What's up, Meta Nerds? This video is all about the Chiss species. They were humanoids from the planet Ceja, located in the unknown region of the galaxy. They had a similar height to humans, at 1.8 meters, or about 5 foot 11 inches. Their skin color was blue, and they had these deep red eyes, and the intensity of both of these colors depended on the level of oxygen in their environment. As it's said that a person turns blue when they suffocate, a Chiss is the opposite and would turn pale. Their eyes can see in the infrared spectrum, giving them an edge in reading people, as they could see these subtle heat increases in the face, and were able to spot the slightest tells on a person's demeanor, and so they could easily tell if somebody was lying, or if they were nervous, just by watching these tiny movements and the changes in temperature across their face. Their hair color was almost universally black, though an old belief said that if your hair went gray, it means that you had birthed children that would go on and do great things. Genetic testing confirmed that Chiss were indeed descendant of the human species, and it is believed that their differences were in part due to living underground. They were overall physically stronger than their human ancestors, but the variations in strength between the sexes were similar. Perhaps the most important biological difference was the fact that they matured at a faster rate. They still had a similar lifespan, with someone in their 80s being considered old, but at 10 years old they were both sexually matured, and their brains were developed to the point of a human 20-year-old. By the time they were 14, they were considered to be respectable adults, so something like a human in their 30s. The planet Ceja was rumored to be a warm, tropical planet at one time, but had a dramatic climate change event that turned all of Ceja into an ice world. Luckily for the Chiss, their society was technologically advanced enough to survive the Ice Age, though they did have to move underground. This whole event was ingrained in the Chiss psyche, and stories were told to the Chiss young about how the opulent and wasteful existence of the warm weather Chiss were all killed off when the Chiss from the colder areas of the planet thrived and took over during this weather change. This was effective to one country taking over the whole world, and explained the unity of their government and universal language. How much of this was myth to build a national identity is unknown, but it definitely would help to explain why the Chiss culture believed that you should be reserved, knowledgeable of your enemies, and always planning for the future. Being prepared means understanding the variables at play, which meant that the Chiss would need to rediscover space travel and learn more about the galaxy at large. The first development was making ships that could produce hyperdrive fields around them, and which worked with these automated drones, which were sent into the unknown regions around Ceja. Instead of having an astromech that could work the navicomputer through hyperspace, the Chiss hyperdrive would easily navigate using these beacons, and this led to the formation of the Chiss Expansionary Defense Force. Once resource-rich planets were found, these assets needed to be protected, especially since it was difficult to gather resources from their homeworld. They eventually colonized 28 planets, making up a federation known as the Chiss Ascendancy. For thousands of years, they developed in isolation from the rest of the known galaxy, until the Great Galactic War and Cold War broke out. The Sith Empire had become aware of the Chiss, and instead of fighting the Republic and the Ascendancy, the Chiss were able to broker a deal in which they would trade weapons and vehicles with the Empire in order to keep their autonomy. Some Chiss would work as Imperial agents, and were especially skilled at teaching cold weather tactics on the planet Hoth. Most of what is known about the Chiss comes from military officers that went into the service of the Sith Empire and the later Empire ruled by Palpatine, or through the negotiations with one of the ruling families, which gives a pretty narrow view of the Chiss, as we are only seeing the elites of their society. Even the term the ruling families is a bit misleading, as they were not biological relatives, but are more accurately described as branches of government. At one point in their early history, it is believed that they could have operated as tribes within that force that conquered the planet during the Ice Age, but over the millennia, their bloodlines were all mixed. Their claim was that the decisions of the ruling circle represented all of the Chiss people, and they said that there was no competition for more power, but all were equal in the ruling of the Ascendancy. Despite this claim, there was evidence that political assassinations and manipulations of the bureaucracy and public opinion were commonly used to rise in power. In cases where this could be proved, the person's immediate family would be exiled, but this created something called shadow children, which were the offspring of this shamed individual that would be adopted by the state so that the family line would not come to an end. One of the most unique aspects of their society, however, was how they dealt with enemy territories and how they handled business. They would never start a war, no matter the threat level, a fact that Thrawn deeply disagreed with. Thrawn caused a bit of a rift in the royal families, as some agreed with his tactic of taking preventative strikes against the force known as the Far Outsiders, a species which would come to be known as the Yuuzhan Vong. Thrawn kept these strikes up long enough to get himself exiled, but not before having an encounter with Darth Sidious. The Dark Lord warned him about a Jedi exploration force that was coming toward the Chiss territory, and when Thrawn realized how this could bring war to the Chiss Ascendancy, he had the outbound flight destroyed, though he did give them numerous opportunities to turn back. Once Thrawn was exiled, he was eventually discovered by the Imperial Navy, and his assisting Sidious in taking care of those Jedi was not forgotten by the now Emperor, who gave this alien unprecedented rank. So the Chiss never started wars, but they also had no independently owned businesses. Every business was run collectively through the ruling families, which, remember, were really just branches of government. There was no form of money, and all of the Chiss's needs were taken care of by the state, but we can assume that either more funds were given to higher ranking Chiss, or they simply found ways around this system. Though we should keep in mind that this cynicism may just be due to a knowledge of human behavior, as xenobiologists who have looked at their society have noted that there seems to be no sign of excess or decadence. This fact, combined with knowledge of their history and military, may confirm that the Chiss really did just want to impose order on the galaxy, insofar as it secured their species and did not disturb their homeworld. Well, that's it for the Chiss species. If you liked it, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you want to check out our social media, or ways that you can help support this channel, be sure to check out the description down below. If you want to see more, be sure to hit that subscribe button and hit the bell icon so that you get notifications. But more important than all that, remember, never play a game of sabacc against the Chiss, and the Force will be with you, always.